my quilting friends, my name is Leah Day, and today I am stitching a new free motion quilting design. This is called Open Weave, and it starts out by stitching a long rectangular shape. Sorry, I got a little flubbed up there. Yeah, just a long skinny rectangle, whatever works and fits your quilting space. So now I'm going to travel stitch a little bit further down on that rectangle, and I'm going to stitch another rectangle overlapping and crossing that one. We are going for a woven effect. That's the goal here. So I'm aiming for nice straight lines, but this is freehand, free motion quilting. If I wanted perfectly spaced lines, then I would need to mark it, or I need to stitch with rulers. And I don't really want to do that. I want to allow it to be a little wobbly wiggly. There we go. So I stitched my second straight line. So I kind of have a foundation for how this design is going to fill this space. And now all I'm going to do is stitch more rectangles going in this direction and more rectangles going in this direction. So let's go straight down. And you might notice me rotating my quilting space, my little square. And I do that because it makes it a little bit easier, and it also helps me maintain pretty looking stitches. It's up to you though, if you don't want to rotate a little square or your quilt, whatever feels right to you. So now that I stitched that way, let's try and not rotate. We're gonna go this way first, stitch down and over. And I'm just trying not to wobble wiggle. I want to try and stay nice and straight. Up and over. And whenever you're coming up on the end of your rectangle, just make sure you're kind of going to hit it and form a nice straight line. There we go. And that travel stitching, just need to go slow and steady, trying to keep those lines perfectly spaced right on top of each other. There we go. So that's the basic idea behind Open Weave. Now let's stitch this on a real quilt, our chain of beads quilt, and give it a try on a long arm. So I'm here on a real quilt, and I started right in the upper corner, and I actually started down here so that way I could fill in this part of the sashing first, alternating rectangles going in this direction, then rectangles going in this direction. So now at this point, I'm going to pull up thread here, and we're going to stitch across. Now I do have a ruler foot attached, and I could do ruler quilting with this, but again, I'm kind of wanting that subtle wiggle wobble to my stitches. I'm wanting that freehand, free motion quilted look. Open Weave is meant to look like kind of an organic woven fabric over our quilt. It's not meant to look super perfect, but if that's really what you like to see on your quilt, of course you're welcome to stitch it that way. Grab a ruler and push it right up against your foot, decide on your spacing. Mostly the reason I don't want to mess with it is I don't really want to have to sit there and do the math and figure out the spacing and all that good stuff. So now I'm coming back around, and I have my thread start, so I want to just be careful. And then now travel stitch carefully, and we're going to do a second line of stitching. So we need to go on ahead and fill this way. In a real quilt, it's going to be a little bit different from filling a little square, because you need to sometimes fill in one direction in order to fill that area up, and then in order to move on with the design. So in this particular case, I think this is going to work out best to do these horizontal lines first, and then fill in this whole section with the vertical running rectangles second. I'm probably going to end up with a travel stitch line that's going to be running along one of these rectangles, and that's okay too. Careful travel stitch up, and I think I have space for one more. This one might be a little bit on the skinnier side. And you can speed up with this. My lines might look like they're, perfectly straight, but you can also alter the ends and have them not end up all at the same place. That's going to make it more interesting looking. And then allow that wiggle wobble to happen. It does not have to be perfect. Part of it looking good is for it to look organic. Okay, now I'm going to carefully travel stitch down that line, get to a place where I can start my verticals. So about right there, stitch down, over, up, over, and down, trying to hit that starting point. And I'm right at the back of my frame. This is my back rail, and this is a Unique 21, so my frame is quite big. I have to be up on my tiptoes in order to see this clearly. That looks good. And then now I'll do down, over, up, over, down. And again, careful travel stitching. That wasn't perfect, but it's good enough. It's as good as I can do it today. And again, for the travel stitching especially, you might want to grab a ruler, but you know, here's another tip. I use this a lot. Because this is white thread on black fabric, I can grab a micron Pigma pen and I can just color out the offending lines, the lines that are not quite perfect. I can just color those in and they disappear. So that's another quick tip for you guys today. I hope you enjoy learning how to quilt open weave with me.